Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. 8 high-quality fragrances for mature men. If there was ever a topic that I know like the back of my hand, it is this one. I've been collecting now for 5 years. I've had a YouTube channel for 2.5 years. My audience does skew a little older, not as old as you might think, but 60% of my audience is 35 and up. So I know what my viewers like. I really know this topic well, and I'm going to share that information with you today. Fragrance number 1. Now, I never normally start a video with a decant. Today is an exception. There was such an obvious fragrance here, and it is Creed's Green Irish Tweed. Now, this is a fragrance that is going to be turning 40 in January. I like to think of it this way. If you compared it to a car, a 40-year-old Honda, that would be junk. That would be like a super old car. However, a 40-year-old, really high-end Jaguar is going to be a classic. That's what this is. It's also a classic in that it is kind of a timeless scent. This doesn't have anything that smells particularly old in it like a lot of older fragrances do. It's not barbershoppy. It doesn't have a lot of herbal notes in it, so it's not going to smell old that way. It has no carnation in it or any kind of animalic note that were really popular in the 70s. This is just lemon verbena, a lot of violet leaf, and some iris. Very contemporary notes, very classy fragrance. This is also, at least with my bottle, and I haven't heard anybody say that this particular fragrance has been watered down. I know for a fact myself that Millesime Imperial was, and I've heard through the grapevine that Aventus was, but I haven't heard anyone. And this fragrance for me, I think this decant's about 5 years old, gets phenomenal performance, like phenomenal. We're talking 10 hours on skin, and for a fresh fragrance, that's amazing. From 40 years ago to completely contemporary, next up we have Valentino Uomo, born in Roma, green Stravaganza. So this is a 2024 release. It came out earlier this year, and I tried 5 Valentino fragrances, and honestly, this is easily the most mature. This is a very mature scent. I was puzzled, however, because I looked at the note breakdown before I got it, and it was citrus and coffee. And I was like, well, why is it green if it's a coffee fragrance? And then I put it on, and I understand it. It is kind of green, but in a different way than you might expect. It's bergamot, coffee, and vetiver. That's the notes they give us. Very simple. Bergamot is what you pick up the most, but the coffee, it has a definite bitter quality. So I think what's happening here, the reason this feels a little green is you get the bitterness of the coffee mixing with the bergamot, giving it a green feel. However, I worked for a coffee company for 5 years. I had a server that was based in our warehouse that had millions, literally millions of dollars of green coffee beans in it. I think what this really smells like is a green coffee bean with some sweetness. Longevity is fine. This has issues with projection, which may become an issue. So it's about 6 inches projection pretty early, and then after 45 minutes or so, it becomes a skin scent. So that kind of is a problem. But if you don't pay full retail, and if you're prepared to either overspray, spray on clothes, or both, then it's fine. Then it's not that big a deal. It's still a Valentino after all. But bear that in mind if you're thinking of getting it. But it is a beautiful, original, quite interesting, and very contemporary mature fragrance. Fragrance number 3 is Givenchy Gentleman Boisee. I firmly believe that Givenchy added this fragrance as a more mature option for the Givenchy Gentleman line. The new line is vanilla or a lot of sweetness and iris. And what they did with this one was they added woods to flatten it out, to mature it up. I think this is the perfect balance of mature but still contemporary fragrance. So you're not going to smell old under any circumstances wearing this, but it has enough sandalwood, enough woods that it gives it an air of stability, an air of maybe a little conservative, but definitely more mature feel. Still have really, really good performance. They use cacao instead of vanilla for this one, but it comes off kind of smelling the same way. As I said, good performance, really good scent, great option for mature gentlemen. Fragrance number 4 is Dior Homme Intense. Now, if you've seen my video, I did a video on Dior Sauvage. And in that video, I talk about how for the longest time, Dior was really concerned that fragrances that were iris-based that came in this bottle style were only appealing to people that had more money, more sophisticated, and people that were more mature. And that's the whole reason they created Sauvage. So this entire line, and this fragrance in particular, are absolutely fantastic for mature gentlemen. This fragrance really, it is the king. It is the king. I mean, it's not in my top 10. It's in my top 20. It's not in my top, but it's just, you have to respect it. 7 years in a row for Fragrantica, for people that know fragrances. This is a #1 fragrance for all time. It is, people say it's a lipsticky iris. I think that's, I don't like that description. It's a lot of iris. There's some lavender and cedar in here as well. But the note that I think people don't talk about enough is ambrette. It's also called musk mallow. It has a creamy quality, and I tend to think of this instead of lipsticky as more of a creamy iris, and it's got like 8 to 10 hours of performance. It's just an absolute classic, and it's perfect for mature guys. Fragrance number 5 is the exact opposite of Gentleman Boisee. This is a fragrance that is a more mature version of a modern fragrance line, and this is a more modern interpretation of sort of an older style fragrance. And so, yeah, this one is actually very wearable, very, very pleasant. It does suffer with a terrible name. It's called Opium. So the Opium pour on by YSL. When you hear Opium, you think, dark and brooding and sort of self-indulgent. It's dark and indulgent. I think of something wearing something like, Black Orchid, really dark. However, this is like the lightest, friendliest, fruity fragrance that you're ever going to get. The bottle, the juice color, I think, is an accurate description of what this is. So it's a pretty simple. There's vanilla, but it's not like heavy vanilla like we get these days. It's a lighter, sweeter sweetness, and then you get black currant, and that's what you get most of all. This comes off as very fruity. There's a lot of black currant here, and then this has a little bit of anise, so it's a little licoricey, but it's got really good performance. It is still available, at least as a couple months ago I saw it, and the price is not insane. It does have some aromatic notes, and that would scare off some people, but they're very, very muted. Honestly, I really have a hard time picking them up. This is mostly just a really nice fruity fragrance. It's quite contemporary, perfect for mature guys. Next up, I added something inexpensive to the list because there's a lot of expensive fragrances. I went with Lattafa's Liam. Now, what I like about this, Lattafa's gone all in on gourmands. And even though, like on the surface, this looks like a gourmand, it kind of isn't entirely. It's more than that. So it has vanilla and iris. But the vanilla here is muted, and it comes off, especially the first, hour, as very creamy. There's sort of an iris creamy quality that's really appealing, and it's not super sweet. It also has some other gourmand notes in like fig, which is noticeable. It has tea. That's also noticeable. But yeah, it doesn't come off as gourmandy. It is a clone of BDK Parfums Gris Charnel, very popular fragrance in the last couple of years. They did a pretty good job here. This smells really nice. It's got good performance. The bottle is surprisingly mature as well. So I think as far as mature gourmands go that would appeal to older guys, this is the way to go, whether you go with Gris Charnel or whether you go with this. Next up, we have Hermes Eau de Narcisse Bleu, and this is a fragrance, I would say, almost exclusively for mature guys. Or unless you're a young person and you've been collecting for a long time. That's the main priority here. Not a lot of people are going to appreciate this unless you've been in the game for a while and see what it brings to the table. This is an extremely well-made, high quality, very, very fresh fragrance in the green realm. It's got blue in the name, but it's a very green scent. It's got narcissus, so think daffodil, which is a fresh flower. It's got a little bit of orange blossom, which comes off as citrusy, and then it's got bergamot. So it comes off as sort of green citrusy. It's a 6-hour longevity for an eau de cologne, which is crazy. Now, eau de colognes don't have a lot of projection, and this doesn't either, but this is so refreshing. When I was prepping for this video yesterday, I went for a walk. It was super hot out, and immediately I came home and I put this on. It just is very, very refreshing. Finally, we have Tom Ford's Beau de Jour. It's a perfect fragrance to wear if you're really leaning into your maturity, because this is a classic barbershop. It leans green, but it's very, very barbershoppy. Phenomenal performance, 8 to 10 hours. So yeah, a lot of lavender, a lot of rosemary. There is some oak moss, but yeah, you're going to get the full-on barbershop treatment. This is one of those fragrances where if you put it on, you 5 or 6 sprays, you're going to be smelling yourself for like at least 2 hours, probably 3. Hey, you know, it might get annoying, but it won't, because it smells really nice. But yeah, so yeah, I think I know this topic really well, and I think there's some really good options for mature guys on this list. Thanks for watching.